We're waiting to see if we are going to make it through the entire month of August without a named tropical storm. And if you think about it, Colin probably shouldn't have been made a tropical storm back in early July, which means that we are 2 months without a named system in the Atlantic, and that hasn't happened in quite a few years. We've got the week ahead, the long range, and everything else all straight ahead tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. Everything you need in case well, it doesn't have to be a tropical storm or a hurricane. It may just be a thunderstorm that knocks out your power, and you could use a generator. Get your yard in shape this fall after the, well, not so kind summer when it comes to rainfall, mulch, topsoil, and much more. And pretty soon, all the salt you could possibly need for the winter. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. And the website is omnitruevalue.com. So, I don't know where Joe Rayo is, but he's supposed to be here. And in the meantime, you've got me twice. So I have no clue what the situation is with regards to Mr. Rayo, but we will just leave his video open, bring me up there full screen. All pretty exciting here the last couple of nights because I've had deer on my front doorstep practically. I put out some corn for them, and they are enjoying it to the point where they're bringing their babies here. Now, I don't know why he's locked out, so let's see what the problem is. 1 second. Let's resend him the link. And oh, there he is. Oh, okay, he's here. Hang on a second. He will be with us momentarily. Okay, hang on. Hang on a second. Momentarily. Let's move you to this side. And okay, there he is.
Thank you for letting me in.
Yeah, I don't know. I was waiting. Usually you come up on the bottom of the screen. Usually you come up at the bottom of the screen, pays to buy the best. But you didn't come up on the bottom of the screen to tell me to let you in. I just saw it hanging. You were hanging out on another page there. So
no, I had for 5 minutes. I said, please stand by. He'll let you in soon. And then the show started. And
well, look,
I don't know.
You're here.
But here I am.
Trying to see if we have any feedback. No.
Oh, please.
No, it's minimal. I can barely hear it. Okay, so welcome to everybody tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Joe Rayo is on the right now, which is over there. Wait, it's over there. There he is. He's on the right. I have to point to my left so that I could show Joe on my right. And I'm Joe Chaffee. I'm on the left, not politically, just happen to be in that position. So why don't we start off with the fact that you were probably on tender hooks and bated breath with the space launch this morning, and it did not happen. So maybe you could explain what exactly went wrong with things this morning. My understanding is it has to do with it was engine number 3, and they couldn't get it to cool correctly.
That's right, and you want you want the cooling device to keep the engine cool. And unfortunately, they were unable to do that. And I learned this morning that parts of that engine has actually been like cannibalized from some of the old space shuttles, and that didn't make me feel too good because I was hoping this was going to be a brand new type of system. And really, what they've done apparently is put this whole thing together piecemeal with parts from other space missions or other parts from other spacecraft. And you just know Joe, that with a very complex system like what they attempted to launch this morning, that there was going to be a problem, and there was. Now they pushed this back to Friday, and I have a feeling that we're not going to go on Friday either. In fact, I think it's going to be a very slow, long haul before this thing ever does get off the ground. I'll be very surprised if it gets off. First of all, the weather for Friday, there's a 60% chance that the weather will not cooperate on Friday because of the threat of showers and storms. And in fact, I saw this morning that a huge lightning bolt actually hit the rocket before sunrise.
Oh
Don't want to have
God.
anything like that happen. So it'll happen when it happens, but it didn't happen this morning, and the next chance is on Friday, and I'm beginning to doubt whether or not it's going to be then. And if there is a serious enough problem, if they can't figure out how to get this one particular system to do what it's supposed to do to keep that one particular engine cool, they'll just have to roll the darn thing back into the vehicle assembly building and start anew. And that means that it may not go off until October, November. Who knows? So,
Uh, well, you're gonna send this. It's an unmanned spacecraft. If you're gonna send it, do it right. So I guess I want to make sure everything is perfect. Because this may actually start the ball rolling for a new round of space exploration. From what I've was seeing this morning on some on interviews that I was listening to. Uh, Eventually, maybe a way station to go to Mars. Like a stopover at the moon to go to the restroom. Maybe they'll put a Bucky's up there. And
yeah, I'm wondering about that too. It's a lot easier to build, the actual craft here on the Earth, to bring it up to the moon, and then build. Well, what are you going to do? That's the wave of the future, I suppose. If we're going to be on the moon, eventually it's going to.
well,
Event-
think about the fact think about the fact that the Apollo rockets in 1969 and the computer capabilities that they had in those rockets pales by comparison to what's in an iPhone these
Yep.
days.
Yep.
So, listen, in human ingenuity and adventure, it's all there for the taking. They just have to figure out the math and the physics. And once they get that worked out, um, who knows where we could wind up.
Well, I think it's going to be a totally slow motion affair, let alone the time intervals necessary for establishing of a permanent manned lunar base. And forget about any. I've heard talk that we're going to be going to Mars by the year 2033 or the 2035. I would say forget about any successful Mars venture for at least the next generation. I mean, I've lived through the entire space age, and I'm convinced, Joe, and everybody, that all these goals could have been quite successfully accomplished and likely much better decades ago if the United States hadn't abandoned the Apollo program 50 years ago and wasted the huge sums of money on the space shuttle. But that's only one man's opinion. Hopefully, I'm wrong, and hopefully, all will go well, and onward and upward to the moon and Mars, and we'll see how things go in the coming weeks, months, and years to come.
All right. So on
Boy, I'm
that,
in a good mood today, aren't
you
I?
you you know you're up today. This is up for
Yeah.
you. This is definitely up for you. All right. So
Yes.
why don't we go to the satellite loop here? I'm going to bring up the tropical wave or tropical waves actually, because there's two of them of interest. One is off the African coast. Very large system just moved off the African coast. See the big swirl of clouds that goes south of 10 degrees north, and a concentration of thunderstorms south and west of the Cabo Verde Islands. And then, of course, we have the system in the middle, which is, let me just draw can I do a circle around it? Yeah, so that's, whoops, I drew it too small. So it's actually this wave is somewhat fractured. So if you look at the loop before the sunset goes, you can actually see there is turning going on there. I've been saying since yesterday there's some sort of mid-level circulation, but you'll notice that there's two clusters of thunderstorms, one on each side. So there's really not much going on near where you would consider to be a quote unquote center. Also, want to point out that we do have convection in the Central Caribbean. Now, this is one where an upper trough interacting with a tropical wave that the GFS has been trying to make into something into the Gulf of Mexico. The European has been more suppressed with it, pushing it further south into Central America and then taking it out on the Pacific side. I think that's what's going to happen with that one. It is going to do that. In the meantime, with the middle wave, Joe, there's an upper low that's sitting to the northwest of it that's producing some shear. I think that's what the issue is right now. That's forecast to go away in the next 24 to 36 hours. So we've got 48 hours to get a named tropical system on the map before the month of August closes. So actually, we've got 52 hours, a little less than 52 hours before that happens. So, actually, no, because technically it's 0Z. So we don't have it. We got less than 48 hours to go. So I don't
And
know.
we've only had two other Augusts, and we've mentioned this before, 1961 and 1997, where there has been no named tropical storms or hurricanes. And if we don't get anything, Joe, as you just said, within less than 48 hours, this will be number 3 since they started naming hurricanes and tropical storms back in 1953. So that's like, 69 years ago. So we've only had two other cases of Augusts that have been quiet. This has been the quietest hurricane and tropical storm season, at least in this forecaster's opinion, going back to 2014. 2014 was very quiet. We only had, to this point in 2014, 2 or 3 named storms. The same thing is happening now. I'm sure that September will be a lot more active, but so far we haven't really had much to talk about, going all the way back to the early part of July, the first 3 days of July, believe it or not.
And we argued back then that system Colin off the North Carolina coast was a shock to everybody.
Right.
So you could certainly have made a case that it wouldn't have been, shouldn't have been made a tropical storm to begin with. But those are arguments for other people to solve. In the meantime, we do have the 8 o'clock outlook from the Hurricane Center. So with the system in the middle, they're going 50 and 80, 50% in the next 48 hours. So 50-50 chance that we could see this strengthen in the next 2 days, and an 80% chance in the next 5. And now they've upped the one just off the African coast to 20 and 40 from what it was, which I believe was either 10 and 20 or 0 and 20. Got something in the central Atlantic east of Bermuda that's 0 and 0. Not expecting much of anything to come out of that because of all the dry air and the upper low that's nearby. And the one in the Caribbean is now moving into Central America, which we just pointed out was going to be the case. I'm going to bring up.
And don't take this personally, Joe, but could you make yourself small?
Where am I?
Well, on the screen, half of the screen is you, and the other half is whatever maps you're trying to show.
There you are. Well, I wish someone had said that sooner. Okay, I forgot. Remember, I got to maneuver 2 different sources now, so I have to remember to shrink me away.
Go.
So,
right.
So here's that loop again, just to review, and there's the I drew the circle around it again. 2 separate areas. There is some kind of mid-level circulation. You could see the other tropical wave that's moved off the African coast. That's a very large, rather large-looking wave south of the Cabo Verde Islands. So that probably has a pretty good shot of developing. And then the stuff that's over Central America and out in the Caribbean, again, going inland and not going to be a problem here. So one of the things I was looking at some of the overnight model guidance from all of this, and this is for this weekend, and you can see how the upper air is being handled. You have a ridge that's going to be building off the coast. another upper ridge in the plains, and there's an area in between across the Great Lakes and a trough. And there's a weakness there, and a trough is going to try to drop in. Now, the thing is, if that upper high off the East Coast stays strong, the system, which I have drawn in the circle in red, at this point would probably be a tropical storm, would move underneath that ridge. The ridge is cradling it, so it would move it west or west northwestward. But the problem is, and all the models, at least from the overnight guidance that I was looking at, what happens is that ridge basically splits in two. And the trough to the north comes in, and there's a weakness that develops between the upper high in the plains that moves to the Great Lakes, and then the upper high off the East Coast, which weakens and moves eastward. So you see that uh, circle there in the middle there, all that wrapped up uh, looking upper low, that is what would represent a tropical storm or a hurricane, would exploit that weakness and turn northward and then eventually turn northeastward into the westerlies, which are going to be sitting right off the North Carolina coastline or just north of 35 degrees north. So at least that was the way the models were showing it then. Uh, Also, you'll notice the African coast has a ridge that comes out into the Atlantic, but there's another weakness between it and the upper high that's southeast of Bermuda. So if there's a second wave, it's likely that it might wind up exploiting that weakness and turning long before it gets far enough west to be of any consequence. Now, I noticed on the new GFS, at least as far out as we have, so here's your trough for Wednesday, bringing that cold front through here tomorrow and then lifting out. Uh, Ridge starts to build. You can see the tropical system there, but again, that ridge weakens. You do have a weakness. There's some kind of troughing that develops right along the coast there early next week, and that forces this thing to turn and pass well offshore to the east-northeast. Eventually finds its way up into Greenland, for God's sake. But I think either way, however this comes out, I think the upper air is not really supportive of something coming into the southeast because of the way the ridge where the ridges are and the fact that you're going to get this trough that's going to kind of carve itself down in between and open up an alleyway for this to move out to the northeast.
Yeah, I noticed a number of media sources, for example, the CBS Evening News Tonight with Nora O'Donnell, pointing out it was the second bullet talking about the tropics and pointing out, three prospective systems that are going to be watching just in time for Labor Day holiday. And I'm saying to myself, what the heck are they talking about? I mean, like from my viewpoint, I mean, all three systems may very well exist by Labor Day, but none of them, in my opinion, pose much of a threat or a risk to the mainland or coastal United States. Maybe they'll be close enough, one of them will be close enough to cause some rough seas, churning up the waters, causing some swells along the eastern seaboard. But making it sound like, oh, we're keeping an eye on this. We're keeping an eye. There could be some problems by the end of the weekend or early next week. Come on, really. I know the old term in media is if it bleeds, it leads, but this is really a stretch,
Well,
at least in my opinion.
if it bled, it's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I don't see it. Not with the way the upper air is set up. Not at the moment. There's too much weakness in the upper flow. There's not enough ridging off the southeast coast of the United States to force this westward. And you could see the latest GFS. The European, by the way, was even less impressive. It kept the system weak, and gradually it winds up getting absorbed by a weather front moving off the east coast early next week. But
Right.
you could see it here. You can see it here with what's happening. Here's our front for tomorrow with showers and thunderstorms and maybe a risk of severe weather. You're like me. You're still hacking away.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So after that, by the way, after this goes out, the system on tomorrow, with whatever we get out of this, which is, I think, once again, it's going to be, there might be some storms inland in eastern PA, western New Jersey, and up the Hudson Valley. But I think by the time we get to the gets to the coast, most of it's just going to fall apart. That's really the only chance of rain that we have for the rest of the week, which should bring a break in the humidity, and then it's going to turn very warm to hot and humid over the weekend. Maybe a chance for some showers and storms next Monday with some kind of weather front hanging on. You see it here on the GFS, but you could also follow the tropical system there. It turns northward and then turns northeastward, passes over Bermuda on this run, and then runs east-northeast from there. There's not much rain here. I'm looking at all 16 days. I mean, you literally have to go to days 15 and 16 to find, something and some sort of other tropical system that pops up off the southeast coast. But as far as any kind of rain is concerned, it looks fairly minimal for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, that's what Climate Prediction Center was suggesting yesterday, if you remember, that they had us in a long-term stretch of dry weather, taking us right on to, on the experimental 3 to 4 week prog. They had us dry right on into the very first day of the fall, September 23rd. So, yeah, that does not look like much in the way of any kind of precipitation for the immediate next, 6 to 10, 8 to 14, even maybe a 3 to 4 week time interval. It's amazing.
Yeah, I just pulled up the European upper air, which, again, same idea. You've got this trough that's coming through for tomorrow with the cold front. The ridge builds off the southeast coast. You see it there. There's another upper high out in the Rockies. That ridge holds on into Saturday and Sunday, then starts to weaken, but you could barely find the tropical system. I can't even find it on the upper air here. And then you got this strengthening trough on the European next week with an upper low that moves it to southeastern Canada, almost to northern Maine, and just general troughing. Look, how are you going to bring a storm up the East Coast when you've got upper air winds? If this is right, then this is the middle part of next week. If this is correct, how are you going to do it with a flow that looks like this?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not. You've got westerly winds in the upper
No.
atmosphere going all the way down to Miami, for God's sake. Excuse me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Joe. There's no way that you can bring any kind of a system from the tropical Atlantic into the mainland U.S. with the winds blowing so fiercely from the west northwest and the upper levels of the atmosphere. So I don't know. It's just a matter of trying to hype everybody up for possible disaster, which is probably not going to happen if you're looking at the possibility of any kind of a hurricane or a tropical system in the eastern United States in the coming days ahead.
Well, we're not the sort of creatures that hype things, thankfully. So here's a satellite loop tonight. You've got some clouds in the southeast. You got some thunderstorms over Florida. You've got some moisture along the Texas and the central Gulf Coast, and some other showers and storms breaking out through parts of Oklahoma northeastward up toward the Great Lakes. Another fine day in the northeast. Boy, I have to tell you, if you took vacation time any time in the last month or so, you really got you had some really good long stretches of beach weather or pool weather for you. That's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's hard to believe that we're just a few days away now from September, and of course, during September, what do many people tend to do? They tend to get ready for the fall and even start after Labor Day, closing the pool up. So,
yes,
I hope you all had a good summer. It's just about ready to say bon voyage.
did you get to go in your pool?
Now, my wife, my daughter, my son, my daughter-in-law, they've all been in the pool. I have not.
Okay, you're not a pool person.
I just don't care for it.
Okay, so that's fine.
And there's no way. And if you bought the pool, we bought the pool to refresh, get refreshed or whatever. And I mean, like on most of the days this summer, the thermometer in the pool is like anywhere from 87 to the high point was 94 degrees, water temperature 94. I mean, I could go in the hot tub.
I was going to
I
say,
can go to it's that's refreshing.
you have a hot tub?
Yes, we do.
Oh, how nice. I'm impressed.
I rarely
Showers.
go.
You
I,
really
I rarely. I rarely go in that too. You know
showers.
who's
Go ahead.
you know who's been in that hot tub more than I? My father-in-law, because he has a perennial back situation or back problem. So more often than not, when he comes, we say, "Why don't you go in the hot tub? Relax. Take care of your back or your leg prop." I have I bought that actually for Renata as a 30th wedding anniversary gift. We bought it at the yeah, we bought it at the Dutchess County Fair. I don't think we bought it at the New York State Fair. Any case, that was 8 years ago, and I think I've been in that hot tub now a grand total of maybe 5 times since we got it. So
So you're not a water
I,
person.
I'm not a water person, I guess. Yeah,
All right. Well, to each his own. Well, we got showers and thunderstorms in upstate New York, up I-81 from Syracuse on northward to Pulaski and up toward Watertown. Also extending with a few showers down into central PA. They get more numerous in Ohio, and they've exited southeastern Michigan now into southern Indiana. Scattered storms in parts of Kentucky and Tennessee. First time in a number of days now. Been getting evening scattered thunderstorms here in the mountains, but for some reason not getting them tonight. They're well to my east. Uh,
yeah,
Busy in Missouri, down into Oklahoma and western Texas. Also, some scattered areas down along the Gulf Coast and in Florida. The Southwest, look at the Southwest today. About as quiet as it has been in the last 2 months. And most of the western United States is doing not much of anything. Okay, the Storm Prediction Center has an enhanced risk with a 2% tornado risk in the lower lakes and in the upper areas of the Ohio Valley, into the middle Mississippi Valley, down into the southern plains. The marginal risk extends into northwestern Pennsylvania and through upstate New York. Now, tomorrow, they didn't do any real updating here from earlier. They've got a marginal risk covering Virginia, West Virginia, most of Pennsylvania, westernmost New Jersey, and then up through, oh, let's say Orange and Ulster counties, and north and west of there, into the Catskills, much of central and eastern New York, northern Vermont, northernmost New Hampshire, and northern Maine, all under a marginal risk. And that comes with less than 2% tornado risk. It's mostly wind and not even hail, just wind, 5% risk of 50 winds of 50 miles an hour or more. And then on Wednesday, probably left over early in the day with some general thunderstorms in New England, down through the southeast and across the Gulf states. Take a look at the rainfall for the next 7 days. I mean, talk about dry. I mean, except for the fact that we're going to get, whatever we get from this front. Here's a 7 day rainfall forecast, Joe. I mean, right along the coast, it's basically less than a tenth of an inch from southeastern New England down into North and South Carolina.
right.
Heavier in PA, heavier in upstate New York, heavy along the immediate Gulf Coast from Florida all the way west to the Texas coast, several inches or more. And then it just diminishes as you go northward. And of course, if you look up in the northern plains, the western lakes, the central and northern Rockies, much of the southwest and the west, hardly a drop of rain as we start to transition over into the month of September.
Yeah, look at that. Finally, as you just pointed out, Arizona, which has been getting clobbered almost on a daily basis, finally seeing some dry weather. It's so funny. We went into late spring and early summer with the people in Arizona begging for water. Then it seems like almost an endless supply hitting them to try to lower the drought situation there. So I actually think that now with the dry weather anticipated for the most part over the next 7 days, they're actually happy about that. For
Yes.
all things considered.
Well, thanks to Levi Cowan's wonderful site, Tropical Tidbits. If you go to current storms, you can find one. Typhoon Hinnamnor, Hinnamnor. A lot of N's and one M, kind of make it hard to pronounce. Maximum sustained winds are 125 knots, so it's getting up there. And actually, a pretty well-defined looking buzzsaw as we get this loop to load. Look at that well-formed eye moving pretty much straight westward. So this is 27 degrees north is where the eye is, and we're out at about 137 degrees east. So it's
Yeah.
out there in the Pacific. And here's the now I kind of thought these maps were sort of funny. Um, so that's Japan up to the north. Okay. And you can see here, this is forecast to actually turn southwestward toward the islands well off Japan. Amami, Oshima, and Kadena. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. Then, of course, you see Taiwan and Taipei in the cone of uncertainty down the road. And also, they move it west and then west, southwest, and southwest. And then in the last couple of forecast periods here, they turn it northward,
Almost due north.
almost due north. Now, take a
Yeah.
look. Take a look at, and they're carrying winds. They take it to 145 knots by early Wednesday morning, and then they start to weaken it so that by the time we get to the end of this forecast period, it's down to 95 knots. But take a look at. I love this is the spaghetti. This is the Gefs the Gefs tracks. Uh, Now, can you make sense of this? Because I can't. These are the GFS ensemble tracks for this. I mean, look at that mess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. Now, the interesting thing is that when we talked about this yesterday, when they recurve, usually when they recurve east of Japan or even west of Japan and hold an identity as they go northeastward, they can oftentimes drive troughing into the eastern part of the United States once they make it up to the Gulf of Alaska or up, in eastern parts of Russia. They could be the driving force for pattern change across North America. So we'll watch to see if this recurvature does wind up happening. It's a little easier to look at the global hurricane models because they only have two that they're plotting with this. One that turns it southward, and no, it's actually just one model, and then it turns it north, northwest, north, and then northeast, passing between Japan and I'm guessing
Korea.
is that is that Korea? Oh no, Korea's thought's further north.
And considering I watch so much of MASH, I should know, right? I think that's Korea.
No, I don't think so. Let's see. You see it on this map. No, same thing. No, not. No, I thought Korea was like north of Japan.
No, that's Korea, Joe.
Oh, all right. Well, I will give you that. Okay. So then it passes somewhere between there and Japan and continues on its merry way toward the northeast. So we'll see if this winds up becoming any kind of pattern changer down the road. And just taking a look at, well, I got get the European up here. So let's see. Here's our front for tomorrow with showers and thunderstorms. And then at least the humidity is going to be coming down Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which is a good thing. And the temperatures are going to ease a bit before we heat up again over the weekend. And then the Europeans got another front. There's your tropical system, by the way, on Sunday, sitting well east of the Bahamas and not very well developed. And actually, it winds up, there's another front that comes through here uh, if the European is right, next Tuesday after Labor Day, and it just basically absorbs that tropical system as the surface low runs from Pennsylvania on up into Maine. So, yeah, that's another possibility if the system doesn't wind up developing that it stays so weak that it winds up getting absorbed by the next important frontal system that comes through after Labor Day. Maybe we'll get some rain out of that.
I'm surprised the National Hurricane Center is still insisting that it's going to be an above normal hurricane season. And boy, I tell you, if that be the case, that would suggest that September and October are going to be real active all of a sudden, because right now, again, only 3 named systems so far, and the potential of the entire month of August going by without a single named storm. So um,
Look,
we'll see. We'll see.
it would seem to me, okay, it would seem to me that let's say if you get 5 or 6 named storms during the month of September, which is not impossible, okay,
No,
if it's going to be a busy September, so that'll put you at 8, which basically doesn't leave you much time to even get you to normal. You would have to have a gangbusters October and maybe even early part of November just to bring you up to the average, which is what, 14 now of total
right,
named storms. I'm,
right.
Losing August is a big deal. I mean, losing August in the those almost 5 weeks. There should have been at least 2 or 3. If this was an average August, we should have had 2 or 3 named storms out of it. And not having those 2 or 3 named storms really puts us behind the 8 ball. I'm going to be very curious to see when it gets down to it. However, we wind up this season with the totals. Um, Given that the La Nina was supposed to be, usually the big driving force in the Atlantic Basin for an active year, what is going to be the reasoning behind why that active year didn't happen? I don't. It could still happen, and I don't want to, throw. I'm not throwing in the towel, but I'm going to be very curious to see what the reasoning is. I got to believe it had a lot to do with what was, the weather pattern that set up over Europe that funneled all this dry air. You had the unusually an unusually lengthy period of Saharan dust that was out there that took forever to get out of the way. The ITCZ was way too far south of where it normally should be for the month of August. Those are the 3 things I would point at as the reason why the La Nina didn't do what it was supposed to do.
It's interesting. Somebody who I know said that he thinks that the reason why that there has been such a total lack of any kind of tropical systems, he thinks it goes all the way back to the Tonga eruption. That you may remember that there was a
Yes.
volcano back at the beginning of the year, an unprecedented amount. Excuse me, an unprecedented amount of water was blasted into the stratosphere by that one singular storm. It wasn't like a Krakatoa, but it was still very small but very concentrated, and just and in fact I believe it was an underwater volcano near the island of Tonga that just boom and maybe blasted an incredible amount of water vapor up into the atmosphere. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Well, I did
Um,
see. There's a couple of things that I saw that, again, this is above my pay grade, um, saying that the I saw a few people that are really into this sort of stuff on Twitter pointing out that there's been a massive cooling of the stratosphere in the southern hemisphere, almost an unprecedented cooling. Now, I don't know what that has to do with, I'm sure it has some impact on the northern hemisphere in some fashion. I really don't know, but that was one of the things that I saw. The other thing that left me a little bit perplexed was when the water vapor explosion happened into the stratosphere. I immediately saw an article that said that this was going to contribute to the global rise in temperatures because of more cloud cover, and that would warm the Earth. And then I thought to myself, all right, well, if you have cloud cover during the day, doesn't that cut down on the amount of daytime heating? So would that not have the opposite effect?
well, according to what I'm looking at here, when that volcano, and it was an underwater eruption in the South Pacific Ocean,
Yes.
when that thing erupted, it blasted an enormous plume of water vapor into the Earth's stratosphere, enough to fill more than get this, Joe, more than 58,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools, and the sheer amount of water vapor. Uh, possibly was enough to temporarily affect the Earth's global average temperature. And I would go with cooler as opposed to warmer temperatures if you're going to inject that much water or water vapor into the atmosphere. And if that be the case, maybe, just maybe, this has something to do with what's going on with the lack of any uh, tropical cyclone activity, not just in the Atlantic or the Caribbean basin, but I do believe that the central and the eastern Pacific are below normal. They've had more they think they've had, obviously they've had more activity in the Pacific as opposed to the Atlantic, but that's because, of course, the Pacific is much larger. But even out there in the Pacific, it's been a below normal season in terms of tropical cyclones. And what you just showed us, whirling around now, south of Japan, I mean, that certainly is a major hurricane, but it's only the only one that we have seen.
Yeah.
The only one that we have seen so far this deep into the tropical storm season. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
and you can't. It's the H storm there, but they have a rotating list that goes. They go down and then they finish one. Set of names, and then they go back to A, and they just keep on going. So you can't really tell. How many. I haven't got. I'd have to go. I'd have to go and pull up archives and see how many storms that they've had so far in the calendar year of 2022, and I'm not going to do that, but just to point that out. But overall, I do know the fact that over the last number of years, hurricane activity in every basin but the Atlantic has dropped. The Atlantic basin has seen an increase in number of tropical cyclones, but everywhere else has seen a drop in the last 20 or 30 years. So that's again outside my pay grade. I will also say that Dr. Judah Cohen, who is the let's call him the father of the polar vortex, because he likes to monitor these things. He did tweet today or yesterday, and if you look, by the way, if you ever want to look at this map, if you go to GFS, the hemispheric view of the GFS, okay, and then go to upper dynamics, you can click on where it says 10 millibars, 10 millibar temperature and height. And the polar vortex, Joe, the polar vortex has been born, and we can see it here. The beginnings of the polar vortex 2 weeks from now is going to be covering the Arctic Circle. So the process of getting us to the winter season is getting underway.
And why do I think that this upcoming winter season we're going to see? I don't know so much about cold, but I honestly think that this winter we're going to see some really, really frigid temperatures here in the east or in the northeastern part of the United States. I mean, it's maybe some of the coldest temperatures we've seen in quite a few years. And this might be the winter. In fact, I'll stick my neck out way out. It's not even September yet, but I think this may be the winter, Joe, where we finally see for the first time in like 10 or 12 years the mercury hit zero at Central Park. It has not done that in a number of years, but I think this year we may actually see that happen.
All right. Well, I'm going to be Switzerland, and I'm not going to say anything
Okay.
on this subject because inevitably I won't get it right anyway. So we'll just leave it at that. And excuse me. And with that, it is time now for Briller Jeopardy.
I just I, I just want to mention one other thing, and this is according to weather historian, New York City weather historian Rob Friedowitz, who keeps incredible amounts of weather records about New York City, and he says that since 1970 through 2021, today, August the 29th, has been the average date of the last reading of temperatures reaching the 90s. It happened as early as July 26th and 27th in 1986. That's interesting. The last in 1986, July 26th and 27th were the last dates of the summer where it hit 90. It didn't hit 90 at all in August and September of that year. And also in 1982, and as late as October 2nd. This is just a few years ago. I don't know if you remember this. October 2nd in 2019, the temperature hit 94 degrees. So it's been as late as October 2nd for the last 90-degree day, and as early as July 26th for the last 90-degree day. However, Rob Friedowitz also points out that in the present decade, the last 10 years, the average date for the last 90 has actually been closer to September 6th. So we're right about there. I think we're going to get close to 90 again tomorrow. But who knows? So who's to say whether or not we're going to see any more 90s after that cold front moves on by tomorrow night and Wednesday for the remainder of the summer? Upper 80s, yeah, maybe, but 90, we'll have to wait and see. And you came pretty darn close, Joe, with your prediction. I think you said 25 90-degree days, and I think we've had 24 at Central Park so far.
Just need one more, otherwise Price is Right rules
Yes.
would give it to you at 21. So I need one more 90-degree day. And then I could reach into the pocket and get the, what is it, $500 now or $100 or whatever it was?
I think it's 500 now.
500.
Right. But
Chuck,
there was some woman on The Price is Right who bitterly complained about the fact that she had to reach into Bob Barker's pocket, that she wanted Bob Barker to physically hand it over. And so now when somebody hits the exact price, Drew Carey actually reaches himself into his pocket and gives the money to the contestant. So
she complained on the air or off air?
I don't know if she complained on the. I don't think she complained on the air, but it was like a bitter complaint, I think, off air about, well, what is this? This is so bad that I have to reach into his pocket to get the money. Why doesn't he give me the money himself? You know, some people you just can't, please.
Yeah, well, they should have thrown her out.
Yeah.
Chuck Cardillo, by the way, points out, I think it's a good point, too. A lot of the wildfires in Europe also could have had a lot to do with the drier air, the drier than normal air that was funneled southward out into the tropical Atlantic. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that was a big factor in what we showed on the maps, how all that dry air was funneling southward down the African coast and forcing the normal intertropical convergence zone to be about 300 to 600 miles further south than where it's supposed to be. So good point from Chuck Cardillo. Super chat hit from the chairman, Scott Briller, saying, I had it here. He did say,
Greetings, weather family, from my COVID hospital job, talking to some doctors who believe this fall may not be as bad as predicted. Let us all pray for that.
Good. All right. So let's do our Briller Jeopardy tonight, which it's the month of September for New York City. Joe, what was the highest temperature ever recorded in the month of September?
That's a good question. Did it ever hit 100 degrees in September? I'm going to say no. I'll say the highest temperature in September is 99.
And you are incorrect. It's a buck 2, 102.
It did 102. Wow.
Right. 102. Set back in September the 2nd, 1953. So, as a result of you getting that question wrong, you can look at Carol Merrill with the tea and the tea service, the silver tea service from the Michael C. Fina Company, of wherever the Michael C. Fina Company is, because you didn't win it. Okay.
I didn't win it.
No.
All right.
The next one. What was the lowest temperature ever recorded in the month of September?
I'm going to say that it actually got below 40. I'm going to say 39.
And you are correct. 39, Joe. 39 on September 30th, 1912. And even Mrs. Bundy is bewildered by the fact that you got the answer right. In fact, Tippi Hedren is calling the judges right now to make sure that it was actually 39 on September 30th, 1912. What was the coldest daytime maximum temperature?
Dear me, that could. I'm going to. How about 53?
Close.
I'll bet you it was in the 40s.
53
then.
51 on September
Wow.
19th, 1875.
Oh, was that before or after they invented steam engines?
I don't know. What was the
Uh,
greatest total rainfall for the month of September?
oh, well, my God, that could include a September being the active storm or tropical storm month, or even a hurricane. We could have had some kind of crazy figure for that. How about something? I'll say 14.05 inches.
You know what? That's not too bad. 16.85 in 1882.
Okay.
Now,
And
here
we just had
is
Ida last year.
yes. But was Ida in September or August?
I think it was September.
September. Okay.
I think.
All right.
Or
All
maybe it was August. I
right.
don't know.
So here is the bonus question. You ready? So the bonus question now. Think snow. This was just 2 years ago. In September 2020. This city set the U.S. record by hitting 100 degrees, and then 2 days later recorded an inch of snow. Was that city International Falls, Minnesota, Casper, Wyoming, Helena, Montana, or Rapid City, South Dakota?
You mean Denver, Colorado is not among that list?
Nope.
I would have said it was. I would have said Denver, Colorado. So now I have to. So give me the four choices again.
International Falls, Minnesota, Casper,
No,
Wyoming,
maybe.
Helena, Montana,
Yeah.
or Rapid City, South Dakota.
All right, I'm going to say Rapid City, South Dakota.
And Rapid City, South Dakota is the correct answer. Yes, on September 11th, 2020, recording 1 inch of snow, the quickest time from hitting 100 degrees to an inch of snow. Of course, Joe, the warm ground prevented them from getting more than an inch of snow. I just wanted to take the opportunity to point that out.
Yes, yes.
So anyhow,
That's amazing. That's amazing. Must have been a lot of intensity for it to stick in the aftermath of 100-degree temperatures.
so 2 nights in a row, 2 days in a row with minimal technical issues outside of my little faux pas at the beginning, which was totally my fault. Um, also, for those of you on the chat board now, I was able to find a setting that allows the chat to actually update virtually within a second or two after you type it. So there's no 20 or 30-second or or longer delay.
Right.
So that's a plus. I'm seeing everybody's chats right now, everybody's comments coming up. Yes, steal the point, the sun angle, correct.
Right.
So I forgot about the sun angle. So you can see, I can see what you guys are saying at virtually in real time. So I'm a very happy person for the last 2 days.
Well, very good. Fantastic. Your system today worked a lot better than the rocket system down in Florida for NASA. So,
Yes, exactly. And we had a nice size audience today, 107 people right now. I think I saw a peak somewhere in the 120s, which is really good. So I'm very happy about that. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. Hurricane Ida, by the way, Christinapedia pointing out, was August 26, 2021 to September the 4th, 2021. So we were talking about Ida at this time last year, just to show you the big difference. So DEFGHI, we are 6 storms behind last year's pace.
right, right. Yeah, they did a report on Channel 2 here in New York, Ida 1 year later. I think they showed a school and an auditorium that was like filled with water in the aftermath of Ida, and they show the school now a year later, and it still looks pretty. Ugh. I mean, there's not any water there, but you would think they would have cleaned stuff up. And again, once it all comes down to economics and money, apparently there's not enough money to renovate or to clean up the mess from Ida from just a year ago. Come back in 10 years, you'll see it's the same thing with with the school.
Same thing with a new cast of players. It's all the
Yes,
same nonsense. You know what? By the way, while I have this up here, let me just take a look at something. Uh, 91L. All right, so just these are the 18Z plots. So I'll just bring those up on the screen. Let's see if I can do this right. To the top. No. Getting close. Hold on. So these are the spaghetti plots of 91L, which is our Atlantic system, and you can see they're all fairly well clustered together on a west-northwest course, passing north of the islands and starting to turn more northwest with time. Doesn't even make it to, well, that's 60, 65, 70. So it doesn't even make it to 30 and 70. I always thought that that was the sort of the benchmark where you want to get, you see a storm gets to 30 and 70, stands a better chance of impacting somewhere along the East Coast. The intensity models are kind of interesting, though, and taking a look at those, we have a number of them that make this a hurricane and a couple of them that make this to a Category 2 hurricane in about 4 or 5 days. So, for what it's worth, we'll see what happens. But we got to get it out of that zone right now where there's some shear going on and get it a little bit further to the west in order to see it perhaps get a little better organized. But for the time being, not happening at the moment. So on uh, on that particular note, let us.
I'm seeing something on LinkedIn from Larry Rice. Larry Rice is a broadcaster, a very highly respected broadcaster and news anchor. And he's sharing a post here on LinkedIn. Fascinating interview from TV News Check, Joe, about artificial intelligence news anchors as a way for TV stations to create more content. TV stations already using artificial intelligence in some cases.
I thought that's all they have ever had was artificial
Yeah,
intelligence.
artificial intelligence. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good news. I mean, if you all your life you wanted to sit behind the anchor desk and read off the teleprompter the latest happenings and of news and views, and all of a sudden now you're going to get a computer, an artificial intelligent computer to read the news, and and then who knows? That may even take over in sports and weather as well. We got out just in time, Joe.
Made Ghost, thank you for hitting super chat tonight. Most appreciated. And she says, is there a criteria for retiring hurricane names? Have they ever used names more than once? Yeah, storms get retired. I don't know what the checkoff list looks like, but uh, if they have enough impact such that uh, naming another storm with the same name down the road 6 years from now would create confusion. Those names are retired. So, for example, last year, Ida is a retired name. There's a long list of retired names. I forgot how many. What was the number? 150 something names have been retired. Something along those lines. I don't know what the exact figure is. But yeah, the Hurricane Center, they decide that usually after the season is done, and then they go back and they look, and if it's a storm that's done catastrophic damage, high death toll, high dollar toll damage, it doesn't have to be a hurricane either. There are a number of tropical storms that never got to hurricane status but did so much damage from heavy rain and flooding. Allison is one such storm. I believe that was in Florida.
Right,
Um, Imelda a couple of years ago in southeast Texas was another one that never
right.
got beyond a tropical storm, but was retired. So
Wilma.
yes. Is there, yeah, so there criteria? Yes. If you go on NHC's website, you could probably find in their archives a list of storms names that have been retired and what years those. A lot of Category 5 hurricanes have been, virtually all the Category 5 hurricanes that have been out there have been retired. For example, there might be a couple of exceptions in there, but there's I think most of them have been retired.
Okay.
And that's it.
That's it. I'm not going to say anything else.
All right.
I'll just simply say thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you all tomorrow night at 7:30 on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
Which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area with everything you need this coming fall. Whether it's to protect your home or to make your home look good, head over to Omni. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number, and the website is
Omni, just the chairman just sent me a message via messenger, and as you were doing the commercial, I was reading the message. OmniTrueValue.com.
Thank you. And on that note, nighty night, everybody.
Good night.